Chapter 195 to 196. After the humiliating defeat of the Z warriors at the hands of the kawaii androids, just like the Beatles, they disbanded. The Earthlings and hybrid Earthlings went in search of Goku and Bulma, trying to do something minimally intelligent and temporarily get away from the danger. Ginger and Yam went to train in a desert, being Yam the one who as usual decided the training plan. Vegeta isolated himself from society and froze while staring at a fixed point, having occasional outbursts of rage in which he further destroyed the desolate landscape. As for Piccolo, he returned to his parents' house, as every young Ma who has had a stumble in his life does. "You must know why it is I've come to this place," Piccolo said just after arriving at Papa's house. "Yes, I know. Originally, me and you, or more accurately, your father, were a single person. I imagine I understand what it is you are thinking," Cammy answered, who after having been spying on him came to that conclusion. That was something that made Piccolo quite happy, although it didn't seem so. "In that case I won't waste my breath. Quite honestly, I didn't think the day would come that our destiny should come together again," Cammy said ironically. "We won't be fusing together. You will serve only as the means for a super power-up for Piccolo. The only justification you have for your existence anymore are the Dragon Balls." Piccolo said so as not to create misunderstandings and point useless. "Cammy is right now. Your words are true indeed. Before I had realized it, you had opened up a great difference between our powers. As you faced one great opponent after another, my powers were becoming all but inadequate," Cammy replied, who despite acknowledging his uselessness tried to say it subtly. Kami-sama, that not true. Kami-sama has duty as Kami-sama," said Mr. Popo, maybe out of love or blindness. "It's quite alright, Mr. Popo. I can't do anything anymore. I couldn't do anything against my evil half, I couldn't do anything against the Scions, I couldn't do anything against Frieza and his father, and I can't do anything against the androids either. Even when Son Goku recovers from his affliction, he will likely meet with similar results. God. I miss Broly. He would have fixed all this mess, giving me a heart attack in the process, but he would have everything under control," Cammy said, lamenting his lack of power and that his least favorite, but most effective champion wasn't there to ask him to save the world in his name. "Yes. You don't know what you have until you lose it," Piccolo said, who strangely agreed with Cammy this time. "It appears the time for Cammy and Daimao to become one again has come after all," Cammy remarked, in case there is still any doubt on the part of the spectator of what his plan was. "That's right. What the Earth needs right now is no Cammy, it's me, coupled with the superpower I need to defeat those guys. At least until Broly returns," Piccolo remarked, in case there is still any doubt on the part of the viewer about the justification for this merger. However, Cammy wanted to delay selling her body to the son of his evil self, provided that we observe events for a short while longer. Something that Piccolo didn't like very much, who wanted his power up now. "What's that?" "Observe." "Correct. To determine whether or not those three will bring harm to the Earth," Cammy replied, giving a more or less convincing excuse to be able to continue being himself. Excuse that our dear Piccolo didn't like at all. "How can you say such a leisurely thing? After the way you were the ones who picked that fight. Besides which, they didn't attempt to kill any of you," as Gohan explained, Cammy answered with a typical father phrase. "You disgust me. While you were up here, looking on at the world from afar, did you not hear what Trunks came to say? He told us that the future lies in ruins because of them," Piccolo said, trying to convince him of something he wasn't entirely convinced of. "I also heard that the future android that Trunks knows are somewhat different from these current androids. The last judgment I make as myself will be if they are the monster that Trunks says or the thugs that Gohan says they are. Then I would like a conclusive reason to proceed," Cammy said, sentencing the discussion with his half-son. "You worthless coward. Fine, very well then. I'll be waiting right here, waiting until the irrevocable happens, and you finally make up your mind," Piccolo replied, knowing that sooner or later it would suck him up. So Piccolo sat down to meditate next to him and waited for his old man to make a decision. The same day, in a spaceship that was situated much higher than Cammy's palace, our heroes of Earth descent tried to relax a bit after a very hard and long day. Once again in this luxury spaceship. I have very good memories of this place. The last time we used it was to get to Namek. I wouldn't mind staying here for a few more months, said Krillin, who immediately sat down on his favorite smart heated sofa that perfectly fits the shape of your ass, Broly product, distributed by Capsule Corp. "It was a great idea to move into space. Those three won't find us here," said Ten Shinhan, who despite not liking the idea of hiding had to admit that this is a great plan. Obviously it is a good plan, I have participated in it. But no, this is not the spaceship that you used to get to the planet Namek, this is a new model, although it looks a lot like the old one since the distribution and decoration were already perfect, said Bulma, who entered the room in which almost everyone was gathered. Ha! Bulma, as humble as ever, said Mutant Rashi, trying to say something funny. You know how I am, guys, Bulma replied with all the humility she could. Mom. Bulma-san. Is the device to destroy C-16, C-17 and C-18 already repaired? Trunks asked, who obviously wanted to end this at once, go back to his past and destroy C-17 and C-18 from his timeline with the same method. Almost everyone exclaimed upon hearing that question. Some exclaimed due to the possible consequences of using this method to rid themselves of this threat, mad angry science. While another, yes, Krillin, exclaimed for a very different reason. Bulma, however, wasn't one of the people who exclaimed, although she also showed some concern about the question. Don't worry, you can call me Mom if you want. Yes, it is built, but we're not going to use it, Gohan said suddenly, finishing Bulma's sentence as he studied under the supervision of his strict and melodramatic mother. This refusal was obviously not to Trunks' liking, so the latter expressed his disagreement despite the explanation that his teacher had previously given. What? Gohan, please, you have to reconsider, these guys. And obviously Gohan had to answer, Trunks. Unfortunately his mother was there to interrupt him in an extremely unnecessary and stupid way. Gohan, you have to study. But luckily this time Gohan stood up to his mother so that she would stop behaving like an eccentric lunatic. Mom, please, I can study when the world is not in danger, which is 99.99% of the time. There are times for everything and this is not one of them. Do I need to explain why? Okay. You win, son, but then you will study twice, Chi-Chi answered, who more or less understood that she was being very incoherent in this situation, but she didn't completely throw in the towel. This woman is incredible, everyone thought, impressed by her obsession with Gohan and his studies. And since Gohan continued to negotiate and argue with his mother, Bulma, who had already spoken to Gohan previously about this matter, explained it for him. Trunks, guys. I agree with Gohan for now. For now I don't think it's right to destroy those guys if they haven't done anything wrong, and it's not their fault to be like that. One of them was created out of thin air to accomplish a mission and the other two were kidnapped, modified and partially brainwashed. I don't think we should kill them until they become a real threat. And for the record, I was the first to propose to end them preventively. Thanks Bulma, Gohan said, who already managed to reach an agreement with his mother. But Mom. Gohan, it's probably only a matter of time before they start killing people once they get bored with their game. Still, you already heard them right? His goal is to kill Sun-san. They were programmed with the aim of killing him and nothing will stop them until they do. As long as they are still alive your father's life will be threatened. And no matter how strong Sun-san becomes, he will always have 3 guys who can become stronger as well waiting for the most suitable opportunity to kill him. Don't you care about your father's safety? Trunks said, giving a rather eloquent and rational speech. A very rational speech, but for which Gohan was partially prepared to answer, well. Although my father might like the idea of having strong guys to fight for many years. Neither me nor my mother like that idea, obviously. But that doesn't mean that we have to kill them to solve this problem. What do you mean? Everyone yelled at the same time with great confusion, except for Krillin, who screamed with joy for some strange reason. It's simple, if Gero programmed them to kill Goku, the solution is to take that programming away from them and make them peaceful citizens, Bulma answered as she sat on the sofa in a very proud way. What? Yelled the rednecks without computer or robotics culture, who hardly knew what she had explained. Amazing Bulma. Can you do that? Asked Krillin, very enthusiastic about that solution. Of course. Is there something I am not capable of? Bulma replied, with a pride comparable to that of Escanor himself. Make Vegeta less proud. Make Goku more responsible. Make Rashi-sam stop being so perverted. And make Broly not do strange things, said Chi-Chi, who found certain feats that neither Bulma, all the technology in the world or the Dragon Balls were capable of fix. Ha 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 ha. A funny comment that caused laughter throughout the room. Yes. It seems I have some limitations, Bulma replied with some humility as she wiped the tears from her eyes. I don't know if I can agree with this idea. Mom, Gohan. But I'll try to believe in you for now, Trunks said, that due of how serious the situation was for him he couldn't laugh as much as the rest. But after considering that this was a valid option, that he was a guest in this timeline and that this solution was being proposed by the people he trusted the most in the previous timeline, he decided to grudgingly accept. Don't worry, Trunks, we know it is difficult for you, but as you have verified, the situation has changed regarding your future. Maybe we can rehabilitate those three and make them allies, Krillin said, comforting Trunks for losing in this debate. By the way, Krillin, why do you seem so excited about not killing the androids? Asked Bulma, who found this behavior unusual in Krillin, since he used to be one of those who preferred to end the problems as soon as possible once he saw that they weren't under his control. Is it because of the kiss from before? Gohan asked. Question that practically answered itself due to Krillin's change of expression. He was like an open book. Yes, that android is quite cute. You have a good eye, as I expected from my disciple, Mutant Rashi said to increase the embarrassment that Krillin was going through right now. Shoo, shut up. It is not bi. Well, maybe so, said Krillin, who was redder than a tomato as he tried to deny what was evident without much success. Something that obviously caused great laughter from the crowd, ha 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 ha. And once again it was Trunks who had to end the fun to talk about the android extermination initiative. So what do we have to do now? How do you plan to reschedule them, Mom? Reprogramming complex minds is quite a delicate job, so you need to bring them with you so I can examine and modify them. And they will need to be still for a few hours until the process is over, Bulma replied, knowingly that the reaction her words would provoke. What? Bulma, are you crazy? How do you want us to do that? Those guys are so strong that we can't even make them bleed, but you want us to knock them unconscious for hours so you can play with them? This doesn't make any sense, Ten Shinhan said, exposing the obvious flaws in Bulma's plan. A plan that was completely impossible. Do you really think Gohan and I would come up with this plan if there wasn't a way to carry it out? It is obvious that you are weaker than them, but that has an easy solution. Become as or stronger than them, Bulma answered. An answer that overloaded the minds of our weak fighters without certified studii. An answer that was quickly deciphered by Trunks, who didn't know what to think until now. Become as strong or stronger than them. Wait. You aren't referring to become modified humans like me? Yes, indeed, Bulma said in view that Trunks was having a hard time finishing her sentence. Wait, Bulma. Do you want us to become androids like those too? Ten Shinhan answered, that being an orthodox martial artist, he didn't look favorably on technology and modern things. Obviously. Do you need to think about it? With a little free surgery and intravenous intake, you can instantly become stronger than a normal Super Saiyan, have unlimited energy, eternal youth, and the capacity of becoming stronger through training with great progression. Are you really going to turn down an opportunity like this? Bulma asked, who didn't understand how they still have some kind of doubt. Had our Z warriors really never thought of undergoing the same surgical procedure of C-17 and C-18 to become stronger? All of them were humans who had dedicated their lives to martial arts, a discipline based on effort, sacrifice, and learning with which make exceed their body and minds to impossible limits. However, C-17 and C-18 were normal humans who after some surgeries became thousands of times stronger than them. It was obvious that Krillin, Ten Shinhan, Rashi, Chaos, and even Yamcha, rest in peace, they wanted to become stronger. Stronger to defend the planet from threats. Stronger to be able to fight side by side with the Scions, who had become unreachable. Stronger to stop feeling useless, unable to do anything. Did they really want to remain as secondary characters, unable to do anything on this new scale of power? No, but accepting that operation would mean that all the work one life had been for nothing. Accepting that operation meant a defeat for their martial arts. A psychological defeat for their pride, with which they could paradoxically feel proud of themselves again. When can we perform that surgery, Bulma? Said Mutant Rashi, who got up from the chair with great seriousness. Mutant Rashi-sama. The other Earthlings exclaimed upon hearing the venerable master. All of them believed that Rashi would be the one who would have the most trouble making a decision. For more than 100 of years he dedicated his to martial arts and therefore the one who would hurt the most to admit that science had defeated his discipline. Boys. How many times have we been told that we couldn't improve much more? How many times have we told ourselves that we were left behind? How many times have you understood today that we were a hindrance? I hate feeling like this. I hate this powerlessness. I hate not being able to do anything. Maybe that taking this option means betraying the hundreds of years that I have been practicing martial arts with which I wanted to save the world just like my teacher. But not taking this option would be the same as betraying the world, me and you. We need to be stronger and this is a very low cost to achieve it, Mutant Rashi said, trying to encourage her pupil and half-pupils. Yes, you're right, 10, Krillin and Chaos said at the same time. Why the hell were they doubting? The greatest opportunity of their lives was before them. I'm glad to hear it, don't worry, the operation is 100% safe, it has no side effects and you won't even notice that you have been operated. This operation and rest usually take a few weeks, but thanks to the different time compression rooms you can be operated in a few minutes. And since I can divide my body, I can perform different interventions at the same time. Would you prefer that I operate all of you at the same time? Asked Bulma, who put her white coat back on and split by 4 as she pushed the 4 Earthlings towards a different door. Wouldn't it be better to operate on Trunks first? With the strength he has now, if we add the operation to him, he should be able to subdue the androids with great ease, Krillin asked as he was pushed towards one of the operating rooms. Unfortunately, this operation for now only works with pure Earthlings. I still need to investigate how to adapt this process to normal Scions, since the S-cells that allow the transformation into Super Scion conflict with this genetic modification. And I haven't been able to test on Broly, since he is not a normal Scion. It would take weeks to test Trunks and Gohan and weeks to tailor a solution, despite using my time compressor. I'm afraid that you two will have to get stronger the old-fashioned way for now, and that you 4 will have to do the dirty job this time, said one of the Bulmas, explaining why this power-up could only be used by Earthlings for now as she closed the door. I get it. I guess we will have to train hard as usual, Trunks said with a great moral dilemma. On the one hand he didn't want to become a modified human, but on the other hand he wanted to become stronger. And now that we have started operations, I have one thing to ask you, Trunks. Bulma said, showing by her expression and tone of voice that he had to ask something extremely serious. What is it, Mom? Trunks asked, getting serious too. Do you have the time machine with you right now? Bulma answered with another question. Yes, I have it right here, Trunks said as he showed that his time machine was inside a capsule. What I thought. A few seconds ago we received a statement in which they found an abandoned Capsule Corporation machine. A machine very similar to the time machine that you use, but it is damaged and it seems that it has been there for years, said Bulma showing the photo that her father had sent her from home. What? That's impossible. My mother only made one and I have only used it twice. One to come here the day I met you and one to come back today, Trunks said as he took the photo that his mother showed him and examined it with great alarmism. We will take a shuttle to inspect that place. Also, I need to make a stop at home to pick up an object that can help us find out what is happening, said Bulma as she created another clone and indicated to Gohan and Trunks that they should set out. I don't like this. From what I see in the photo, this machine must have been abandoned there for many years. It must have arrived long before Trunks reached this timeline. Gohan theorized as he created a clone to stay here and followed Bulma and Trunks. This theory obviously froze the blood of our time traveler, who after remembering the explanation that Broly made about time travel began to release cold sweat from all the pores of his body. That means that someone from another timeline or from a future more distant than yours arrived before you on this timeline, destroyed the machine, abandoned it. And it's still here. Gohan said, who finished telling his theory. A rather worrying theory that created great tension between Trunks, Bulma and Gohan himself due to the possible implications of this event. A troubling and possible theory that only had one flaw. If it had been here so many years, how is it that they have found it precisely now? Trunks asked, who didn't understand this plot convenience. Luck, maybe, said Bulma, excusing this plot convenience. Meanwhile, in Cammy's palace, things continued as before. Cammy looked down with concern, Mr. Popo looked at Cammy looking down. And Piccolo looked the other way so as not to see them. However, from time to time he asked him sarcastically if he had decided to merge with him or not yet. Still peeping down on the lower realm? Can't say I approve of you little pastime. I guess that ability will likely disappear once you become one with me. Enjoy it now, while you still can, Piccolo said, mocking perhaps for the last time about old man and his more than questionable lifestyle. So, the uneasiness I've felt in my heart these last 4 years, it wasn't a result of the androids after all. I'm not sure what it is either. What did come back in that time machine? Cammy said, who had just said something highly disturbing. Did you see a giant bug coming in a time machine years ago and didn't alert anyone? Was this another plot convenience or was Cammy really utterly useless? What? Yelled Piccolo upon hearing that worrying ambiguity. All I know is that there is a life form down on Earth somewhere, one that possesses an even greater power than even the androids, Cammy said, not answering his question, when it was something quite a failure to do. What are you talking about? Tell me what's going on, yelled Piccolo, wanting immediate answers. To be sure, the day when I turn to Piccolo and forsake my office as Cammy, and we stand together as one has finally arrived. Very soon now, something terrible will happen on Earth. This is not the kind of crisis Earth has faced so many times before. I have a hopelessly dreadful feeling about his. Once you and I merge and become one being, you'll know what it is I saw. Right now what the Earth needs is not a Cammy, but rather, the mighty. You have changed. The evil in your heart has mostly disappeared. Once we merge, it is unlikely we will ever need to divide again, Piccolo. Thank you for all you help, Mr. Popo, Cammy said in another of his incredibly long monologues in which he never explained anything in a concrete and precise way. Cammy-sama. Mr. Popo said with teary eyes, knowing that in a few seconds he would stop seeing his wrinkled and green face forever. Come on, start. Not only do you love spying, you also love to chat, said Piccolo, who wanted his power-up and explanations of the situation now. And without further delay the merger process began. With that cry, Piccolo and Cammy became one, although at first glance it didn't seem that Piccolo had changed, he looked the same as always. So after checking that everything was still in place, he walked to the edge of the temple to leave. Farewell, Cammy-sama. Don't die, Mr. Popo said as he watched how what was left of his previous Cammy was heading towards a very dangerous mission. I am neither Cammy nor Piccolo any longer, even though we have both suffered at the hands of Broly. Although Cammy has had the worst part, I'm a Namekian who has long since forgotten his name. So then, I'm off. Thanks Popo, said the new Piccolo, showing that not only had he gotten stronger, something of Cammy had also remained in him. And with those words the strongest Piccolo in history descended towards the greatest enemy that until now had seen this planet. While some were about to solve the mystery behind that new enemy in parallel. While some continued their car excursion to kill a certain scion. While some continued frustrated by having lost. While some trained hard to overcome their limits. While some were about to leave the operating room. While some forced 1% of their sun to study. While one of them left his room. On some abandoned mountain on planet Earth. Trunks and the clones of Bulma and Gohan arrived at the place where the supposed abandoned time machine was. And indeed, as they feared, that was the same time machine that Trunks used. However, it was broken and with a very strange and large kind of egg inside. They quickly reasoned that someone or something had put an egg in the machine, sent it to the past, and that what had come out of that egg destroyed the ship from the inside out. Obviously, after reaching this conclusion, they looked for the creature that came out of the egg in the vicinity. And in part they found her. It's huge. What made this? Trunks said upon seeing the strange, suspicious and giant insectoid creature they found. It's a shell that's been cast off. Gohan said, who seemed to understand about mutant bugs for some reason. Probably, this is from whatever come out of the egg back in the time machine, said Trunks, who came to that basic conclusion by relating the two strange elements. Yeah. It must have started growing, and then shed its skin, Gohan said, who kept demonstrating his great knowledge about insects to Bulma and her alternate son. A Bulma who, like all delicate women, was quite disgusted to see such a large bug, no matter how much power-up she had achieved. But her worry and bad feeling were much higher than the disgust he felt. This is no, not possible, although. Do you know what this is, Mother? Trunks asked, seeing her mother's worried expression. I think I have an idea of what it can be. But if it is what I think it is, not good news. Let me check it out before. I don't want to scare you unnecessarily, said Bulma, as she waited for her other clone to fulfill its mission. At that moment. In Capsule Corp. Oh. Hello daughter, how has it been with the modified humans? When you have time we need to. Oh. Hello daughter, I have made some ice creams with the Broly recipe, wanna? Sorry Dad and Mom. I have urgent things to do right now. We will speak later. My next invention will be a pocket teleporter, said Bulma, who had just landed at her house and dodged her parents to go quickly to the laboratory where one of the most useful devices she had was stored. The magic sphere that Shinran gave her so that she could easily spy on whoever she wanted in this universe, even something that happened in the past. With this sphere Bulma tried to find out what happened to that time machine. And after a few seconds she saw everything. No wonder this seemed familiar. It looks like the long-running project that Jero ruled out for the moment to allocate his resources to the creation of new energy-devouring androids quickly. That thing is... Cell! Shouted Bulma as she looked with one eye at the crystal sphere, in which Cell was emerging from his cocoon, and with the other she consulted the plans she had copied from Jero, in which some information about Cell. In Bulma's spaceship. Shortly after, someone came out of one of the doors of the spaceship. And that person is... Dad? Gohan yelled, who threw textbooks to the ground to hug his father. Darling. Chi-Chi yelled, who did the same as Gohan, although she didn't like what her son had just done with the textbook. Goku? It was time. Shouted Bulma, who had been very impatient for Goku's return. Hello guys, sorry for worrying you, Goku said with a carefree smile. Thanks to having taken some medication before the heart attack and having been resting in a room where time flows slower, Goku was able to wake up on the same day of the heart attack instead of 3 days later. Although, how is it possible that you have taken so long? According to my calculations, you should have left more than an hour ago at the most, protested Bulma, who didn't understand what he had been doing in there. Yes. It had been a long time since I moved, so I wanted to train a little. And in the end, I have been more than a month. I'm sorry, Goku replied nonchalantly, telling one of his typical irresponsible excuses. You are incredible. Are we here concerned about your health and your training? Do you know everything that is happening? Shouted all those who heard that incredible negligence in a moment of extreme crisis. Those more than justified screams forced Goku to give an immediate apology. Sorry, it's my fault. By the way, Bulma, those keys that I feel are... You better ask them yourself, replied Bulma, who pointed towards the doors from where the 4 Earthlings had entered earlier. Since Rashi, Krillin, Ten Shinhan and Chaos came out of them, each accompanied by a Bulma. The operation had been a success. All of them had become last generation of modified humans. We will no longer be a nuisance, Chaos said with great joy. You can count on us again for dangerous missions, Ten Shinhan said with great confidence. At last I can regain my dignity as a teacher, Mutant Rashi said, crying with joy as he felt that he was once again the strongest man in the world. Ha ha ha. That's right Goku, I'm still your rival. Krillin said, as he felt the nostalgia and confidence he had when he and Goku trained together at the same level. However, the 4 of them weren't the only ones who were happy about this impressive power-up, and that was obviously Goku. I'm glad to hear that. How about a little match? Pope. This is not the time for that. Shouted Gohan, who had to avoid at all costs his father and the others, but especially his father. Could do something stupid and unnecessary right now. Listen to your son Goku. We are in a state of emergency, Bulma also shouted, who joined the protest in favor of common sense. Why are you so worried? Didn't you tell us that with this operation we would become stronger than the androids? Asked Ten Shinhan, who until now was very confident in his new abilities. Also, we have plenty of time to train thanks to your time compressor to become even stronger if that is what worries you. Mutant Rashi said, bringing classic solutions with modern methods. Yes. Those guys will keep looking for Goku eternally without success since we are in space, besides they are searching him while riding a car. And although they can track us in space, I doubt that they can get to where we are, said Krillin, making a good analysis of the situation. It is true. We have everything going for us, Goku said, quite surprised to see that everything was under control. I fear that there is another last-minute problem. I would show it to you with my magic sphere, but while my clone, Gohan's, and Trunks arrive with her, you better watch it on television while I explain it to you what's happened, said Bulma with a very pessimistic tone as she turned on the television. But nevertheless, her explanation was a bit unnecessary. Since from the Earth our heroes detected a very powerful and impossible to understand key. One that also puzzled Vegeta, Yam, Ginger and even C-16, who were on Earth. Hey, what's going on? This key. Krillin said, who always used to be the first to be surprised. It's Frieza, and his father key as well. Shouted Mutant Rashi, who could never forget those sinister keys. Mine too. Ten Shinhan said. And mine too, Goku said too. What is happening? Asked Chaos. This is what Bulma wanted to warn you about. Listen, and after that don't do anything reckless or unnecessary please, Gohan said authoritatively so that they would pay attention to him. On planet Earth. A few minutes ago, Super Piccolo had reached the place where Cell was, that dangerous monster that Kami and Bulma had detected. A monster that with its sting had devoured all the living beings of that city. A monster seeing that when he met Piccolo unleashed his ki, proving that he was no ordinary monster. Now then, what exactly are you? Tell me. Let's have it all, shouted Piccolo, who after feeling all those different keys in the same being wanted to know the truth than before. That won't be necessary. See, you are about to become my meal, Cell said, who at that phase of his life seemed quite focused on that goal. So, you don't intend to tell me, then? Ha! In that event, I'll just have to squeeze the life out of you not knowing any more than I already do, Piccolo said, pretending to have no interest in Cell confessing now, during the combat or later. He. Does Piccolo Dimao plan on killing me, then? Cell said mockingly, since with the information that he had the chances that Piccolo could beat him were below zero. And Piccolo upon see that this arrogant thing began to reveal information about him, and Saisi were underestimating him, decided to show the world his recent power-up. For whatever reason, you apparently know who Piccolo is. However, releasing an absurd amount of energy, so powerful that destroyed what remains of the city, despite the fact that in previous sagas Vegeta with much less power made the world tremble. He released such a powerful amount of energy that it caused great complexes and alarms in and out of this world. Gohan, Trunks, Bulma, Vegeta, Yam, Ginger, Goku, Rashi, Krillin, Ten Shinhan, Chaos and C-16. All of them detected his ki and with this they realized who was without a doubt the most powerful Non Broly being in the world. There was no point of comparison between them and Piccolo. Thanks to his multiple mergers Piccolo had surpassed them all. He had far surpassed the Super Saiyan. He had even surpassed Super Saiyan 2. Not even perfect Cell could beat him right now. Although Cell and the others didn't know, Piccolo was adjusting his power so as not to attract so much attention. He was only displaying a power greater than that of a Super Saiyan. A power greater than but not much greater than the one Cell displayed before. However, unfortunately for you, you're mistaking me for him, Piccolo said to baffle Cell with his new identity, although he continues to call himself Piccolo to his friends, and the fans. Nanny? Cell screamed like every average Japanese or otaku that loves JoJo. Your having extinguished all the people of this city actually works in my favor, Piccolo said bragging unnecessarily, if what you are facing is a disgusting monster that devours people. What do you mean by that? Asked Cell, who in her extra imperfect form wasn't excessively intelligent, despite having moments of quite enviable lucidity. It means I can go all out. Although the best thing will be to dose my strength. I need to keep him alive until he tells me everything I need to know, Piccolo said as he pointed his hand towards Cell, a hand that was gathering energy to shoot it towards his enemy. Bomb! The combat had officially started with this energy attack. An energy attack that completely destroyed part of what was left of the city and created a powerful shock wave that could be felt hundreds of miles away. However, he was unable to harm Cell, who had prepared in advance to receive this attack. I will have to increase my firepower. Although I have to watch out not to kill him by mistake. I still don't control all this power and I don't know how far I can press him, Piccolo thought as he watched Cell fly in the air, and he seemed to be about to do something shocking. Nanny? However, Piccolo never imagined that this monster would attack him with one of his most characteristic abilities. Special Beam Cannon. Bang! Boom! Fortunately, that attack from our green villain was easily deflected by our green hero. However, seeing how that monster used one of his abilities so easily made him even more nervous and with more desire to know who the hell he was, who had sent him back in the time machine, if he had allies and his intentions. I have to make this thing confess. And the best way to make such an arrogant guy confess is... Pam 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 pam. Pom 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 pom. However, while Piccolo planned his next move, Cell decided to attack melee, with the typical sequence of Dragon Ball. A sequence that would end with a slight advantage from Piccolo, which catapulted Cell against the rubble of the former city. PUMB. PMB. Crash. Cross. So that's what you've got, is it? I had you sized up as quite an abominable monster, and it looks like I was right, Piccolo said, trying to appeal to the pride of that monster, which was similar to Vegeta's. The objective? Make him felt confident and with that maybe more talkative, and with some luck revealing new information. You do pretty well yourself. No matter that I haven't achieved my perfect form yet. Said Cell, who fell into Piccolo's intellectual trap. Perfect form? You don't mean. So that's why you've been preying on these people. Piccolo said, exaggerating the surprise he felt so that Cell would brag again, giving him new information for free. And Cell fell again in his trap. I take them as the energy of life for myself. It seems that now he feels superior and with puffed pride. Now it will be easier for him to answer my questions. Answer this. Who was the one that sent you to this era in that time machine? Some ally of yours? Piccolo said, who feigned a bit of fear and exaggerated his tone of voice so that Cell would feel more arrogant. And everything went according to his plan. Cell once again boasted of his feats and abilities. I was the one who sent me. That time machine was too small for this body, you see. I had to revert myself back to my egg form in order to fit. In any case, it surprises me that you would even know about me and the time machine. But I doubt you already knew about this. And once again Piccolo was surprised to see the posture that Cell was doing. A posture that was extremely familiar to him. No, not possible. Kamehameha. Cell yelled as he performed the easiest technique to imitate of the entire show. A technique that shouldn't have surprised Piccolo too much, since Krillin, Yamcha, Mutant Rashi, Goku, Gohan and a wild squirrel were capable of performing them as well. However, between the surprise and the smoke screen Piccolo was distracted and that was used by Cell to immobilize him and Plash. Stick his stinger in his arm and started devouring him from there. And obviously Cell had to brag about his success as he clung to him like a huge tick while Piccolo screamed in pain. The outcome is still the same. I will take your powerful life's essence from you. But Cell didn't count on Piccolo knowing about the header attack. Cross. A very effective attack with critical hit and with a recoil that managed to free him from the binding attack and drain life. Yes, I played Pokemon when I was young, and not too young. You were lucky to get away. But not having use of one arm, it seems the advantage has been reversed. Cell said, who really believed that the winner had already been decided. It seems that he thinks he has everything won. Well, now is the time. Certainly true. My balance is thrown off like this, making it quite difficult for me. Unfortunately, it would seem you have won. Piccolo said, pretending he was really screwed up because he didn't have a gross enough regeneration ability. Really, Cell? You forgot that? He even lowered his ki considerably to give his situation more realism. And Cell, who sometimes proved to be smart like Vegeta and another idiot like Goku from Dragon Ball Super, believed in Piccolo's performance. Genetic is something complicated, Hagaga. Not even you can help admitting when you're beaten. Rejoice. Once I absorb the magnitude of your life's essence, I'll have drawn much closer to my perfect form. You will be of great service to me. Aren't you glad? This monster is as simple as Goku and as overbearing as Vegeta, the perfect combination for him to tell all his origin and his plan in a situation like this. Before I'm to be absorbed by you, you have to tell me something. What in the hell are you? Why is it you have Son Goku, Frieza and everyone's ki? Piccolo said, feeling with a 99.99% chance that Cell will tell him absolutely everything now that he felt infinitely superior to him. And once again our dear Piccolo was right. Cell was about to spit it all out. Very well. You're going to die anyway. I'll tell you. My name is Cell Ann. Kamikamiche. Flaring Kikaho. Boom. Boom. Plash. However, a wild mutant Rashi and Ten Shinhan appeared out of nowhere and brutally attacked Cell with their two most powerful attacks, creating a huge crater full of rubble, where Cell, who never expected that surprise attack, was buried. What the hell? Piccolo screamed upon seeing that Ten Shinhan, mutant Rashi, Krillin, Chaos, and Goku had suddenly appeared at his location with two very powerful attacks. I see. Goku has recovered and has brought almost everyone with his teleportation when he felt my ki drop. Bad timing, Goku. Hey Piccolo, I see that you have finally joined with Kami, Krillin said, who deduced before coming here the origin of his green friend's power-up. You have become incredibly strong. Wow, I'm falling behind everyone. Goku said that by now he had become the weakest of his circle of friends. He needed a power-up quickly. Goku, what a relief, you have recovered. But I can't believe it. How have you guys become so strong too? Piccolo exclaimed, who couldn't believe that such incredible ki came from the quartet of useless humans. Some of them were almost as strong as Cell. Bulma has operated on us as she did with herself. Now we are no longer a hindrance. You can leave this monster to us, said Ten Shinhan, who after years of not being able to be useful finally saw the opportunity to shine as much as his bald spot did. Meanwhile Chaos and Krillin looked around, looking for the key of Cell, which seemed to have died from the surprise attack combined to the maximum power of two very powerful enhanced humans with inexhaustible energy. Apart from that. Why did you interrupt me? I was about to get the whole truth out of that idiot, said Piccolo, whose elaborate plan to make Cell confess was ruined by his dear friends. He had been hurt for nothing. We're sorry to interrupt, but we thought you were in trouble, said Mutant Rashi said, who had teleported precisely when they sensed that Piccolo might be in trouble. And also to show off after his power-up, just like Piccolo. It wasn't. That thing has stolen some energy, but... I can regenerate my arm whenever I want, said Piccolo, who tore off his limp arm and regenerated a new one in front of everyone in a rather unpleasant and slimy way. Creating a great cringe among their allies, although this wasn't the first time they saw something similar. You don't need to question him, Piccolo. Bulma has more or less explained almost everything to us and we have already intuited the other part. That thing was Cell, eh? This. How did Bulma say? Goku said that as almost always he had forgotten the technical details, especially those that had to do with technology. Something that didn't surprise his friends and acquaintances. It was expected that you didn't remember. Cell is a biological android created by Dr. Gero from the cells of the most powerful warriors that have ever stepped on this planet, among which are Frieza, Goku, or yourself. It is a very dangerous android that absorbs vital energy to become more powerful and its objective is absorb C-17 and C-18 to acquire their final form, said Krillin, who had made an effort to memorize all that information in the probable case that Goku or the others forgot something. What? Yelled Piccolo, who was obviously shocked by this surprising revelation. That was our same reaction. Gohan, Bulma, and Trunks said that the reason why it traveled to the past is surely because when it was completed by Dr. Gero's computer in the future C-17 and C-18 had been defeated by the Trunks of that time. Unable to complete on his timeline, he decided to come to this one. As for the Trunks of that time, we can only imagine the worst, Krillin said again, explaining the probable theories the intelligent team thought about Cell. Theory that convinced Piccolo a lot, especially if that theory had been devised by the group of intellectuals, I see. It makes sense and agrees with what that monster has told me so far. I have no idea of the power that Cell can reach if it absorbs those two, but it would be better not know. Don't worry about it, Piccolo. Thanks to Mutant Rashi and Ten that Cell it is history, said Chaos, who had already eliminated Cell from his list of concerns. But not only him, everyone gave him up for dead, ha ha ha. It's true, now we just need to take care of those 3 androids and... Cross. But nevertheless. Cell had only been hiding under the ground, waiting for the right moment to act. And the first thing he did was grab the furthest person from the group, really? And then... Clash. He nailed the stinger in the spine, preventing any type of movement and resistance and causing indescribable pain in his victim, Teen. Chaos. Everyone screamed upon see that Cell was alive and had caught his little friend in the worst possible way. At that moment. At the Desire Realm. In the cinema of Broly's private mansion. Holy shit! Exclaimed almost all the henchmen who cared, more or less, about what's happening in the Dragon Ball universe. Flash. Such was the frustration and shame that some reflexively hit his own face. You see. I told you that you shouldn't underestimate their stupidity, said Broly, who was hoping that something like this could happen. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.